But as we've seen, specifically France progress in every single game, do you feel like they are truly, maybe out of all the nations, the guaranteed contender in this World Cup?
Unfortunately for the World Cup, like, we don't decide the guarantee winner at the final stage. But what I will say to you is that, like, what they have showcased so far in large spells has been, I would say, overwhelmingly positive. I mean, I went to the Senegal game, I broadcasted the Senegal game, and they were struggling for the first 60 minutes, but then grew into the game as it went along. I was very convinced in terms of how they handled the other two teams in their group. Norway, we never got a full respect in terms of, because Norway decided to rest certain players for that last group game, and we understood that. Paraguay, we had our question marks because of the low block. So as much as we've seen the positives, I think as much as the other teams, they've had their negatives. They've had their question marks. So I understand, and I've seen the superlatives around France, and I'm as high as anybody because I've tipped them to win the World Cup. But I will always remind people, you don't win the World Cup when there's still 8 teams remaining in this competition. There's still a long way to go, and you're going to still play at least a couple difficult teams on the way to rooting. So they have all the building blocks. They have the storyline. They have the manager that's got the emotional context. They have, of course, arguably the best player in the tournament as well. But there's still a lot of work for France to do if they're going to complete the task.
But
I want to add on to this, JayDee, because I'm with you on this. As talented and as stacked as this France side is, with not just their starters, but their bench as well that comes in, they really, I think you could question if they've been tested and how they've been tested. And the perseverance that we have seen from this team hasn't been through too much adversity. And I think they will be tested against Morocco in what could be their first test of this World Cup. Paraguay was a different kind of test in a way because of that low block. It was a scrappy game. They still had to fight and claw their way through it, but they weren't tested in terms of another team truly going at them. I think on paper you would have said Norway will do that to them, but again, they rested. That game was already decided before the match even started. Now we will see how much of contenders France will be after this match against Morocco, when they are truly tested, forced to defend, put on their back heels, and don't control, 75% of the match.
Yeah, I mean, there's a famous Mike Tyson quote: everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And to your point, maybe they haven't been punched just yet. I was also at that France-Senegal game, and I thought Senegal were better for the first 45, 60 minutes. I think what's interesting about France is they're one of the few teams in this tournament that can hit the switch. And they did that in that particular game against Senegal. It took them 60 minutes, and then all of a sudden, oh, we need to score now? Cool, we'll just go score now. And they ended up hitting 3, and you're like, holy crap, these guys are unreal. And then they kind of found their way and found a rhythm. They've got 14 goals for in 5 games. They've only given up 2, which actually has been pretty impressive. They've been pretty stout defensively and not giving up a lot of chances. Yeah. But I'm very curious about Morocco's right side. You have Hakimi, a Brahim Diaz. Can a Barcola or Doué and Lucas Digne slow them down on that side? Because that's an area where I think Morocco can really get after it.
When you're looking at the way that France is going to end up lining up against Morocco, one of my favorite things online is people saying, oh, like, if you're a team playing against France, you see their subs coming on, you go, oof, and they go, oh my gosh. You look at their stacked bench, it's just talent after talent on this France team. So how do you see them lining up against Morocco?
I think Didier Deschamps he's been spoilt in terms of the riches that he has, especially in the attacking third. Like, we speak about it all the time, but if you play 90 minutes or 60 minutes against Mbappé, Dembele, and let's say Doué, you still got Barcola that's going to come off the bench. You still got Ian Cherki who can impact the game in the final third. And I didn't even mention Michael Olise, who I think is arguably the most impactful player on their team. Look at the assists that speak for themselves. So they really are so stacked in the final third, and the best part about it is I really do look at all of these guys and think to myself, well, I'll probably see them again in 2030. That's how good and how young they are in terms of entering their prime. They're blessed in terms of their attacking quartet. Their midfield really understands in terms of the assignment, whether that's Tchouameni or Kone in there. It's a really well-rounded team overall. And I didn't even mention N'Golo Kante, who's probably behind the scenes, probably keeping everybody together with both the charisma and the experience that he has. But they're phenomenal, and that's what we expect in terms of a team that has gone into 30-plus games now undefeated, have kind of exceeded all expectations. And Didier Deschamps is one of the best managers in world football. So I'm not shocked at all at what I'm seeing. I just want to see whether or not you can complete the job, because they've been there both as a finalist and as a winner. But trying to go to a third final in a row in a World Cup competition is extremely hard.
So there's 3 areas or 3 positions that I think are up for grabs. You have Barcola or Doué. For me, a coin flip. either one of them comes off the bench, they're a spark, right? So they kind of equal each other out in some ways. Kone probably will start over Tchouaméni, but maybe Tchouaméni could be in that spot. And then you have Lucas Digne at the left back spot, or Teo Hernandez. Teo started there to start the tournament. I think Digne has been a little bit more consistent in his decision making and has connected better with the players in front of them. Doué came off the bench against Paraguay, drew the penalty, so you could make a case for him to be involved. Barcola came off the bench against Senegal, ended up scoring in that one. Again, they're just so talented. I don't even know how you slow these guys down, and we could probably get into that a little bit more. But yeah, this is a nice space to be in for Didier Deschamps, where you're just like, I have a team that's 18, 19 deep, and that's going to be a team that ends up winning the tournament.
Didier Deschamps has done a good job at changing the rotation, changing who he's starting, as you just mentioned. I think a big question mark is Barcola versus Doué and what happens on that side, because that's a side that Morocco wants to attack down with Diaz and Hakimi on that side. You have to have someone that's going to be willing to defend a lot and put in hard tackles. But I do think that Deschamps has done a really good job of reading the room, in a sense, and understanding his players and who could be a difference maker in a match. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. Not necessarily who starts, but who doesn't and how they impact the game when they come on.
We have a comment on YouTube saying Hakimi is prepared for Doué, Barcola, and Dembele.
Well, he should be. They're his teammates.
He's ready. He's ready.
If there's anybody that's going to be prepared, he sees them every day in training, so he should be ready.
Yeah, I love that. All right, well, let's take a look at the vibe meter, Lisa.
Oh, yeah.
And I like what our production team has been putting together for all these vibe meters.
You like what they've been cooking up?
I like what they've been cooking up. So here's the topics that we've got for the vibe meter, Lisa. We have from good to bad, champagne out, bon appetit, still cooking, out of sauce, lost the recipe, and au revoir.
This feels very Ratatouille. Just throwing it out there for all you.
I like the ratatouille of it. I mean, these categories are fantastic. Great job, BAs. Well done with the creativity here. For this France team, I feel like you could go, what's the top one? It's Champs out and then Bon Appetit?
Yep.
Okay, I feel like you could go Bon Appetit in some sense and say this is a team that is on their way to a final. They are cooking at this point. I also think you could go with still cooking because they haven't been tested. Now, I am going to stick with Bon Appetit. I like this because that they have shown us that they can do it on both ends of the pitch, right? They've scored 14 goals, a tournament high in this competition. Mbappé is chasing Lionel Messi for that golden boot, and he knows he has to do it. He wants to continue to chase him and be on his heels scoring goals. They've also had 3 shutouts, and they have proven that they can do it defensively and be a little bit more compact and understand that they need to play strong defense, and they have to do that against Morocco. So I am going to stick with Bon Appetit. I think this France team, they're cooking. They're on their way.
What do you guys? You guys agree, or would you?
Yeah, you can't hand over the champagne just yet. As JayDee said a little bit earlier, not handing out trophies in the quarterfinals. So, and it is hard to get to 3 consecutive finals. That's only happened twice in the history of the competition. So yes, I think that's a good spot to be in because they're the clear favorites, and they know it. And there's some type of responsibility that comes with, hey, we got to be the team. Everybody expects us to be the team, and guess what? We're cool with being the team. Not every team can handle that type of pressure.
Have you been seeing enough from this side that you think that they'll be able to put on a very strong performance against France?
100%. Let's just talk about their run so far. I thought they outplayed Brazil in the first game of the tournament, deserved to win that one. It ended up 1-1. They played more like Brazil than Brazil did, and I thought that was a testament to how much they're building. And we could even go a step further. This is a team that got to the semifinals in 2022, okay? And they got there by beating Spain. They beat Portugal. After that tournament, the first African nation to get to a semifinal, they won the U20 World Cup. They won the gold medal at the Olympics. Like, this is a team that, and a federation that has built a nice foundation and has a nice talent pool. Now they come into this, they're not going to surprise people anymore. They're a known quantity, so that's going to provide a different challenge. That said, they took it to Brazil, unlucky not to get that one. They had a really good game against Netherlands. They had to figure out a different way to get a result. They got that result. They won in penalties. And now they get to face off against a very good French team who they have a history with. 6 of the players that are on this Moroccan team are actually born in France. There's 1.5 million Moroccans or Moroccan descent in France. And so there's a nice, rich history there. A lot of it's due to colonialism. I'm not going to sugarcoat that from like the 1912 to 1956 French occupation there. And so there's a lot going on with this particular game. Where I think, let's get onto the field now, where I think Morocco can really hurt them is on the right side of the field. I mentioned it earlier in the show. You got Hakimi, you got Brahim Diaz, two of the most dynamic players so far in Morocco. Essentially, when you look at how you can hurt the French team, how do you make France suffer? And I think that's an area of the field that they can do it. Is Barcola going to do the work if he starts? Is Doué going to do the work that he starts? Who's tracking Hakimi? And conversely, if Hakimi does go forward, how can France hurt them on the counterattack? So they have to be really cognizant of that. But Brahim Diaz has got 4 assists in this tournament, only one behind Michael Olise for the tournament lead. So that's going to be an area where I think Morocco could have some success and where France really has to be cognizant of how do we slow them down. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like because, as we mentioned before as well, Hakimi plays against Doué and plays with and Barcola, whether against them in training or with them as teammates at PSG. So it should be a fun game to watch overall.
Yeah, all eyes on that right side, hands down, because of what Morocco can do and how France is going to have to defend on that side. I think that is where Morocco absolutely has the upper hand with Diaz and Hakimi with what they're able to do. They're such threats going forward, but is that exposure something that France can capitalize on? If I'm France, I'm more worried about defending that side than I am attacking on that side and just making sure you mitigate any of the chances created, the threats that those two create going forward.
It's so interesting talking about the strengths of Morocco. I think that does speak about how far the Federation have come, especially the quality and the consistency they've produced over the last few years. When Jimmy was really rattling off everything in terms of the U20 from the gold medal, the performance in the last World Cup, I don't no longer look at the Atlas Lions and think to myself, oh, this is a surprise package. If you listen to a lot of the commentary coming into this, I actually said I expect them to at least make the Final Four. This was always going to be a massive stumbling block. Now, I'm going to contradict myself slightly because obviously you heard me say that France were going to be the winners in the last one. So this could be actually where the tournament ends for Morocco, but it doesn't downplay in terms of the progression that the tournament or that they've had overall as a federation. I'm so glad that the Brazil conference or the game was brought up because I sat here in the same thing and we had one of our colleagues come out and told me that Brazil were going to outplay Morocco, and I was like, you haven't seen Morocco clearly over the last 4 to 5 years. That really does demonstrate not only how much they have grown from being the dark horses, but now they're at the forefront of world football. But we speak about this right-hand side, and Jimmy, you'll know, like, as much as France are going to be wary of what Hakimi can do, Brahim Diaz can do, and all the rest of it, and that's fantastic, they will leave a lot of space. And so the counteract to that sometimes is you're lazy on purpose, if that makes any sense. You allow Hakimi to go and you say, we're going to trust our defence to turn around and combat whatever they're going to do going forward. And know that we now have Olise, Dembele, Barcola, Doué, whoever wants to pull over, even Mbappé to an extent, wants to pull over to that left-hand side now for France and now create an overload in that situation because of the space that's been exposed by Hakimi. So Morocco still needs to be very wary of what's going the opposite way and also the threats that can be created that way, because you can be gung-ho in football and be like, oh, because we're fantastic going forward, that means that we can focalise on our strengths and this is what we need to do. But when you play against another world-class team, you also need to recognise that by me going forward, and I'm telling you, if someone play fullback, when you go forward, you also do need to recognise the work that needs to be done behind you. And if you don't want to be having to be stretched out, and all of a sudden you have a 3v3 situation against arguably the most formidable front three in world football, that right there could create as much problems as it is advantages.
Yeah. All right, so you gave us number one on the checklist. We've added more to it here.
Yeah, number two, just as be kind of Captain Obvious here, they got to take their chances. And I say that because it comes more difficult without arguably their best attacking threat up top in Ismael Saibari, who is going to be, or he's been ruled out for this one. And that's disappointing. He scored in every single group stage game. He started all 5 games so far. He's just been a real threat. He just made a move to Bayern Munich, for 60, 70 million, which I think really speaks to his value and what he can bring to the table. He's really dynamic. He can drop in the midfield and combine. He can get in behind. He scored some great goals, the one against Brazil in particular, where little dink over Alisson was really well taken. He's a big loss for them. Sofiane Rahimi comes in. He scored the last goal against Canada. He's 30 years old. Saibari's 25, so a little bit older, but sometimes that means more experience, right? And he's more of a traditional striker. He's going to stay in between the center backs and just be kind of a nuisance and a menace for Upamecano and Saliba. I don't know if he's got enough to trouble them consistently. So that's why when you get your 1 or 2 chances, you have to score. We saw it against the Senegal game. Senegal hit the post. They're asking a lot of questions. If you don't take your chances against this French team, they're going to come back and get you the other way. So he's going to have a big role in this one. As you mentioned, Unahi scored 2 goals against Canada as well. So getting Rahimi confident, Unahi confident as well, I think is really important for that Moroccan attack.
I love what Jimmy's alluding to. If you realise what he's basically saying between the lines is that Morocco have strength in numbers. There hasn't been... Saibari is obviously going to be a massive miss, and there's no two ways about it. You cannot replace arguably your focal point, your number 9, and now what's going to be Bayern Munich's number 9, which is crazy to add to what the talent they already have. But the other part of that is that when you look through this team throughout the tournament, Diaz has scored, Hakimi scored, as we've spoken about, El Khanous has scored. Like, they've spread the wealth, which is where I think Mohamed Webby would want to be when he's going into the situation, knowing that I'm not relying on one player, especially knowing that I've handled a lot of these players from youth team in terms of being in the youth development with them as a head coach to now being in the senior team. I can trust them that somebody will turn up and create a moment, and they have to be clinical. Because me and Jimmy were both there was it New York or was it Philadelphia? I've had so many games. It was in New York. Yeah. And they are France in the final third, especially Kylian Mbappé. He is a different kettle of fish. He is unbelievably clinical in between the lines, super sharp. So they have to recognise that if they are going to get opportunities, number one, you have to take them. And you might not get many, but if you do get an opportunity to take the lead,
it's got to hit the back of the net.
You've got to hit the back of the net.
I think Morocco can do it, though. You said the players need confidence. This is a group that has it. They have all the self-belief to go and make it to a final, to win this World Cup because of the talent that they have. But we've also seen throughout the matches Morocco has played so far that they have the ability to suffer in a game. They have the ability to not control long spells, to suffer. They have the ability to come back from being down goals. And they also have the ability to control large portions of a game. So to me, they have the full package. They've been tested. They've dominated. They've done everything that they are going to face in a 90-minute, maybe, match against France. And they have the belief that they can come out on the other side.
Yeah, which is a nice segue, I think, in terms of how do you limit Kylian Mbappe's impact on the game, which is my third point for Morocco. When you have a player of his magnitude, and he's been on fire, 7 goals and 2 assists through 5 games, clearly trying to eclipse Messi as the Golden Boot winner, and potentially, he will, I think, eventually eclipse Messi's goal tally throughout this as long as he stays healthy. How do you do that with a star player? I've had the opportunity to play against some of the world's best, played against R9 Ronaldo and Messi and all these players. And,
you tackled Messi.
I did. Thank you very much. Thank you. If we could roll the clip, that would give me instant street cred. But I think you need to suffocate the service into these types of players. And when they receive the ball, what's your first point of contact? Because as soon as they get it and can turn at you and can pick up their head, it's over. They're gonna. So you got to suffocate that service and make sure he's picking it up in pockets of space that can't hurt you. And if he does, you've got somebody right there that's just making it hard and making it actually not predictable for the first defender. The first defender's got to make it predictable for the next person. So making them take a big touch or making them play backwards or whatever it may be. That's the only way you can really survive and then ultimately thrive against a top player and a team that's so littered with talent. Because Norway tried to take away Mbappé in their game in the group stages, and then Dembele scored 3 goals. Yeah. Right? And Mbappé had 2 assists. So it's like you hope that's why they make him so dangerous. Because if you try to slow down 1 or 2 players, they got Elise, they got Doué, they got Barkley. It's just ridiculous how good this team is.
So we have a comment on YouTube saying France was terrible against Paraguay. We can't ignore that game. That looked sort of easy to push them around.
No, I understand where they're coming from. I'm going to disagree with that and push back a little bit, respectfully. Paraguay came in with one thing, and just to make the game choppy, and to dabble in the dark arts and do whatever they had to do to survive and give themselves a chance. Their 1 or 2 chances, set piece, counterattack, whatever it is. That worked for them in their previous game against Germany. They got their 1 goal that they needed, and then they just made it really choppy. I didn't think France played poorly. When you have 10 players that are standing on top of the box, where's the space? What are you going to do? If they had scored early and you had to stretch Paraguay out, that would have turned into 2 or 3-0. So I understand where that comes from because for the optics, it didn't look great and it looked like they were just getting kicked, which is essentially what it was. But I don't think they played poorly. They just couldn't score. They have to take your chances early when you're playing against a low block.
And respectfully to that viewer as well, like I don't think you make the latter part of a World Cup if you are such a lopsided team. Like Paraguay were going to come in with a certain level of tenacity. They obviously knew that individually, personnel for personnel, they couldn't go against France, so they tried their best to make it very difficult. They flipped between a 4 and a 5 and numbers in terms of defensively for a number of occasions throughout the game, and they absolutely destroyed the rhythm of that game. They destroyed the rhythm through tacky fouls, being super physical, disruption, and also slow in getting the ball back into play. they set out with an agenda and they did it correctly for large spells of that game. Unfortunately, the quality came through again. And I know a lot of people are looking at it and thinking that, oh, because it's France on paper and I see all of these names, I know all of these names, they should go and blow in that position out. It doesn't work that way. That's not how football works. Football is a lot more tactical, a lot more of a breakdown. There's a lot more nuance than people give it credit for. And sometimes you can find occasions where you have to kind of grab a win or grab a win out and break a team down really slowly. But when it's all said and done and you pick up the trophy, and no one remembers that. No one remembers any of your bad performances. No one remembers any of your hiccups. We only now refer to Argentina, their disappointment against, was it Saudi Arabia in their opening game? Because they won the trophy and it adds to their story. But nobody remembers that part. All they remember is going to the final, making sure they picked it up, and Messi now with the infamous jacket on him. Everything else becomes null and void.
I think it's interesting is if you played five-a-side, whoever gave that comment, and you're the team that has the ball and the other team's just kicking you, kicking your teammate, and every time you pass, you're just getting kicked. It doesn't mean you played poorly. You're just like, how do we figure out,
You have to weather it.
Yeah, you have to weather it. How do you find solutions when that happens? And it doesn't always look pretty. You have to kind of fight back with what's coming at you. And what I think is really special about France is they're so adaptable.
Facts.
And they survived that particular matchup and had to solve that problem, did what they had to do, and now they're gonna, when you look at their particular matchups, it's looking like Morocco that wants to play, potentially Spain, and then Argentina, who might kick you a little bit more, but England could be doing the same.
There you go. Just making sure some references. I was just waiting to see when it was coming out. That's okay.
So ultimately, I think they're not going to run into any team like Paraguay, but there was that hurdle they had to overcome, and they did.
And props to them for being able to stay calm under that situation. All right, so this is a rematch, we can say, France-Morocco of a semifinal that happened in 2022 World Cup. France obviously got past Morocco then. What are you predicting for this one?
Claudia, I don't know if it's the lack of football yesterday, but
you feeling crazy?
Penalties. I think that.
What?
Yeah,
Someone
I think
did
this
say
game could go all the way to being, tied up after extra time, after regulation, after extra time, and then it could go to penalties. I don't know if it's just because I want more football, but I really do. I think that Morocco is going to give France a run for their money at times, and it is not going to be an easy win for France, but ultimately they will get the job done and France will advance.
YouTube comments are agreeing with you, people saying it will go to extra time.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the scoreline that every pundit goes with when they don't really know for sure.
2-1.
I'm going to say 2-1. I'm a 2-1 merchant, everybody. Deal with it. I got France 2-1 in this one. I think they just have a little bit too much quality, especially if Morocco actually goes out and tries to play. Interesting fun fact for everybody. When they played Spain and Portugal in 2022, they had 25% possession in both of those games on average. And they still found a way to get those results. So, yes, they do have it in them to grind things out. But ultimately, I think France has just got a little bit too much, and they can hit the switch.
JayDee? What are you going with?
I actually think it's going to be quite convincing. I think it's going to be a lot more convincing than people are giving them credit for. That's no disrespect to the Atlas Lions. That's no disrespect to any Moroccan. I'm
Sounds like
super proud.
disrespect.
And worst of all, I'm always going to represent because of what you've produced and what you put Africa on the map and what you've done over, especially not just this World Cup, but the previous one too. Unfortunately, I just feel like France are going to send out a real signal and a sign to the rest of the World Cup as to how dominant they are. And they're hearing the question marks. They're hearing the question marks around them after the Paraguay performance. And I think what you're going to see is the defending champions, and I call them that because I'm crowning them as the champions to be or champions elect, go out and make a real statement today. The historical context between the two teams, the culture, and also most importantly, this is arguably a rivalry between two countries that are so integrated most recently, and also their people as where they live geographically too. So I'm actually looking forward to this, and I think that France will go out, and I'm going to go as far as to say it will be a 3-1, maybe even a 4-1.
Oh, my God.
We have very different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Claudia, what do you think?
Whoa. And different
gonna go
definitions of
Morocco.
disrespect.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.